The Rapid Response Network is a network of progressive anti-American nonprofits which are aiding the border jumpers from the Caravan and other mostly bogus asylum seekers. They are providing them with food, shelter, medical care, and transportation to the destination of their choice. This will be supported with tens of millions of tax dollars at the state and local levels, as well as private donations. California Governor Gavin Newsom has promised $5 million this year and $20 million next year. Newsom certainly has connections, and he should know. This shows that he is expecting even more bogus refugees to come next year. According to this nonprofit, 4,500 have gained entry just in San Diego since November 2018, 2 months ago. Much is made about them being here legally, but they are exploiting loopholes and gaming the system. All it takes is for them to say the right words in the initial credible fear interview and have a minor with them, or even a young adult who claims to be a minor, and they will be released on the U.S. side with documents to show that they are legal residents, at least until they skip their court date in 4 or 5 years, which most do. Passing the initial interview does not at all mean they are well vetted. Customs and Border Patrol is required to do this per the Flores Agreement. You can Google it to learn more. A CBP insider told me that almost all pass the interview because they have been coached by the open borders radicals. A border barrier would help, but would not end this problem. Changes in the laws and regulations are necessary. By this standard, there are tens of millions of people around the world who can successfully claim asylum and gain legal entry if they can just get to the border and surrender to a Border Patrol agent. There's really no limit on how many can come. At this time, it still doesn't matter if they wait in line at the border or just jump the fence to cut in line. Trump's order to stop this was blocked by a court. They will all get an interview, and few will fill it if they bring a kid with them. It encourages people to bring their children on a very dangerous journey, or even to rent children from their parents. It promotes serious mass child abuse and trafficking in children. Following are some scenes from a county board hearing when the board approved funding to support and encourage caravanners and other pseudo refugees via this network of open borders nonprofits.
We learned a lot about the selfless work that is going on by community partners and volunteers to provide temporary support to asylum-seeking families as they await their due process in our community. This population is made up of families, and it's all families, that have been granted permission to be in this country temporarily by the federal government until they unite with their sponsor, primarily in other states, and attend their court hearings. I want to take a moment to thank these community partners like Jewish Family Services, Catholic Charities, San Ysidro Health, La Maestra, the ACLU, and the many other volunteers. And it was amazing to see the variety of individuals that just out of a sense of compassion have volunteered to come down there, particularly over the holidays, to provide service, and other service organizations that really make up the San Diego Rapid Response Network. And they've just done a tremendous job, in my opinion, in trying to address this situation. Today's action builds on the momentum that frankly was started by our previous chair, Supervisor Kristen Gaspar, when she sent a letter urging the state of California and the federal government to fully address this crisis in our community by providing temporary shelter for asylum-seeking families. At the same time, we will also look at our own surplus properties that may be appropriate for the state or other entities to temporarily house these children and families during their short stay.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I want to thank Supervisor Cox for his work on this effort, and I want to thank Supervisor Gaspar for her efforts to get the state engaged. I think it's important when we talk about this issue. We recognize, despite the debates that may take place about immigration or refugees, these are folks who all follow the law. We often say when it comes to immigration that if folks follow the law, that's something that we should applaud, and they followed it. The Trump administration has determined these folks have a legal standing to be here in our country. Now, after determining that standing, they then fell down on their end of the deal to help ensure these folks have transportation out of the region to their sponsors, to ensure their public health, to ensure their safety and welfare. And I think I can say with confidence there's probably no one on this board that is more in tune with banging on the failures of the federal government than me. One, to direct the chief administrative officers, continue the efforts that Supervisor Gasper started on getting the state more engaged and potentially finding a state location. Second thing is to create this working group where the city will participate, and the city's committed to do that. The county will participate. The state is committed to do that. I've talked to members of the legislature and our new governor who have committed to be a part of that process with us, along with the advocates who have done a heroic task to date, so we can really assess and figure out roles and responsibilities and things that need to happen on an ongoing basis from a long-term standpoint, and then to look at the possibility of vacant or abandoned or unused county properties that might be considered or might be available on a temporary basis to house these folks as the nonprofits in the state pay for the operations of that center.
Good morning, Chairwoman Jacobs and Supervisors. My name is David Trujillo. I'm the Advocacy Director for ACLU San Diego and Imperial Counties. The ACLU is a core member of the San Diego Rapid Response Network, a coalition of human rights and human liberties organizations, community and faith-based organizations formed just over a year ago to monitor immigration enforcement and overreach and abuses occurring in our region. We did not expect to be providing emergency shelter. That is not a traditional ACLU programmatic work. But nevertheless, we believe that every asylum seeker has a right to just and humane treatment. We are hopeful we will see immediate progress on government funding for migrant shelter operations and case management services, including travel, medical, and legal help. Secondly, we would like to see a confirmed, suitable, and long-term location for the shelter. And finally, as the establishment of a regional working group made up of federal, state, county, and local regional stakeholders to address both short-term and long-term solutions for the migrant shelter crisis here in San Diego. I want to emphasize that what San Diego County is experiencing is a migrant shelter crisis caused by anti-immigrant policies and rhetoric that undermine just and humane asylum process. These folks are here legally, seeking a legal process for asylum, and San Diego has a rich history of being a welcoming place for refugees, for people looking for asylum. Since October 26, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, has released hundreds of migrant families without warning and without following their usual protocol that ensures asylum seekers have travel plans and a means to join sponsors elsewhere in the U.S. ICE is abandoning these asylum-seeking families on the streets of San Diego without food, transportation, or shelter. And until recently, ICE did not coordinate or even communicate with local government or nonprofit agencies that were willing to help. The Rapid Response Network is helping to address this migrant shelter crisis created by the federal government. Our shelter has hosted more than 4,500 families since we opened in November 2018. All of them have been families, parents with small children, nearly all of them going somewhere else in this country. By latest count, over 8,500 unsheltered people live in San Diego County, the nation's fourth largest homeless population in the country. ICE is adding 70 to 100 people to that population each and every day. And in the absence of a shared governmental response to that crisis, our nonprofit network has been the only resource for people who would otherwise be alone and destitute in our communities when they didn't have to. This is a leadership moment. San Diego County must provide proactive solutions to address this migrant shelter. We urge you to protect the safety and well-being of those most vulnerable county residents, and for the very brief time they are in our region. We urge you to approve Supervisor Cox and Supervisor Fletcher's recommendations. Thank you for your careful consideration.